Okay, this is the one of 5 videos on orientation training on Unit 215, the county fire engine. And so this video is going to be on just the orientation of the equipment, and then we'll go into the other 4 following after that. So to begin with, you probably noticed when you guys were going over your job performance requirements, one of the first things you want to do with any apparatus, any response, is obtain an anchor point. And if you recall what an anchor point is, and remember that an anchor point is a place where you will position your apparatus where you're safe in terms of, it could be the roadway, it could be the driveway, it could be the blackout, where fire cannot get to you. Okay, so you're not standing in vegetation, that if the fire changed directions that you'd be caught in it. That's an anchor point. So like I say, it could be a roadway, a driveway, the blackout area of a fire, which is the blackout. What I'm referring to is the unburned area. Okay, those are anchor points. So as you pull up, as an engine operator, pump operator, of course you're going to find an anchor point. You go through the normal procedures of stopping, parking your brake on. This orientation is right here. We're going to show you when the operators, if you're actually using the engine as a pump, and deploying lines off the pump itself, off this apparatus. So you put the emergency brake on, you go into neutral, you wait for a second or two, and then you shift down. Here's your pump shift, okay? And then you stick into the highest gear, which in this case is drive. Okay? Another video will go in more detail in showing you that. So just orientation, here's your pump shift. And okay, so let's move over here. Just a quick review of your panel, your pump panel itself. You're going to have your valves, your discharge valves, all color coded in accordance to where your discharges are. So discharge number 1 is located here. Discharge number 2 is here. Okay. You also have your crosslays, okay, which are up there, and you have your corresponding gauges. Okay. You also have your closing valves here, your bleed valves for your discharges. You don't drain the pump, but they drain the veins that run to the discharges or inlets. Okay, that's why they're open now, because in the wintertime operations you do understand that we don't want to freeze the pump or freeze the veins, so that's what they're opening. They're open now. Okay, your external tank fill, your tank to pump, which is dropping your water from the tank into your pump. So here's these 2 valves here. Here's your tank fill. Okay. Moving over here, these are the accessories that just want to review. I'm just going to review on the wildland fire stuff, because this is what we're dealing with. We have a bunch of connections, and the reason why we have several of these connections is because you don't know who's going to come supply you with water, and the tenders could have different connections. Generally we have our own tender, of course. We know the connections on there, but you may have a different truck that's assisting us, and they might have that different fitting. So that being said, we have a smaller connection from a 65 thread to a smaller cam lock connection. Okay. You also have a larger connection into your 65 inlet, and then you're connecting to a tender, and you have your cam lock connection here. Okay, so you have this one just straight in. Double male, just in case you come up to a case where both you have full female lands, or you need an adapter. And here's the double male adapter. Here's another 45-degree angled. I dropped it. A 45-degree angle connection. Again, 65 thread into your cam lock. Now, where would these come into play is that if you were coming in here into tank fill, as we do these evolutions, we'll explain that, especially on the tender video. But you're filling up with the tender. This screws into here, into the external tank fill. Okay, just like that. And the reason why there's an angle, it takes so as you're coming off the tender, you can envision the hard suction hose that's brought up. If it went straight in, there'd be a lot of weight on that hose. So that's why it's coming up like this to help support the hose in its natural formation when it's being filled. Okay. The reason why it goes into the internal tank fill is because we don't want to overpressurize the pump. If we went directly into here, which goes directly into the pump, the tender is pushing water in, and it can overtake our pump in terms of pressure because it's coming in straight in. A way you can look at it is that if you got an overpressurized hydrant, or not overpressurized, a very high pressured hydrant. An example was over at the crushing plant. Their fire hydrants are overpressured, and they took over the running of the pump. Okay, and so that's why we go into the external tank fill. This other one, the reason why this was designed as it is, it can come off the front. So your intakes here, you can come off straight into here. This one here also is designed for going to places of business that have their own ponds with a dry hydrant. The dry hydrant usually have a standpipe as a dry hydrant, and this would come in directly. We nose in with this truck, so we had did some pre-plans such as over at B&D Simons and over at the fellow over at Junction 1321, that business there. Who's that, Jeff? Kuntz and Kramer. Kuntz and Kramer there. They have a hydrant that sticks right out of the ground. That's what this is designed for. We can go straight into it. That's what this is for. You can nose in from the front. There's an inlet in the front of the truck. You can take it and take from there. Okay. So the different servo couplings. We also have here is your backpack filler. It's hooked up to a 65 discharge. Okay, and you do your backpack filling. Okay, so let's move on over to here now. For Wildland equipment, we'll start from here. Here's your portable pool. And once again, as mentioned in the earlier video with 204, there's your pool. You should have in the contents in that bag, you should have the pool, which is approximately 2,500 imperial gallons or 11,300 liters. The pool should have the contents of the pool itself, a tarp to lay down first. The fill tube is also in there. So those three components should be all in that bag. And when you guys put this back, make sure that's there because it's all there to lay out and deploy. You also have a floating screen. Okay, this screen is designed so it can float on top of the water, and as you draft and floats, you have your tether rope onto it, so you can connect this onto your screen. So when if it's drifted out there with your hose connected, it's easier to guide it with your rope to pull it back in, and so forth to retrieve it. Okay, since we're talking about screens, here's a secondary screen that you could use. Another screen, okay, onto a hard suction if you're drafting. And again, the tether rope where you can retrieve it. We have two of these stands. Okay, the two stands here. Okay, one is to hold the high volume suction hose that we connect onto. I call it the periscope because it looks like a little periscope, but this connects into the steamer port onto the other side of the engine. We'll show that in another video, but that's what that is. And so this stand is to hold the hard suction hose because it's connected to the pump and it drifts out to this periscope into the pool. And so one of these stands holds that up. The other stand, if you weren't going to use it, but if you were going to use it, the other stand is actually used for the jet siphon. And if you guys remember, and I'll show you this right around the corner, as the jet siphon is used to support the jet siphon. Okay? In terms of that jet siphon I was telling you about, this is it right here. Okay? And if you guys recall correctly, the jet siphon is designed to transfer water from one pool to the other pool. So in cases of bringing water in from the tender and shuttling water. Timing of the shuttling, the tender drops water into one pool, drops into the other pool, and then you're shifting it as the tender drops water off and shuttles it. You coordinate that where this jet siphon can siphon from another pool into another pool, or perhaps from a pond to your pool. We'll show you how that works in the other training video. Okay, so this is used for jet siphoning. As you can see in here, there's a hard suction hose. So this is just how we store it. But right here is the other high volume hard suction hose that connects to the periscope. Okay. You noticed that I mentioned about connecting into the standpipes and so forth like that. If it's not a connection of a high suction, you also have smaller hard suction hose. You can also use a smaller diameter, 77 inch. Okay? And you have two of them which can connect together. Okay, now going over to the portable pump. Okay, this has a dual purpose here. This pump is what allows this truck to pump and roll. Okay, when you use the pump on this truck, it's the one that's designed in it. Once you engage that pump, you're not moving. It goes through the PTO, the power takeoff, and now it is running off this truck. You can't, it's static now. But if let's say you want to roll, you want to move and spray water at the same time, you have to use this pump. Okay, this becomes the pump, and which moves the water. So how you do that is basically here's the hose that connects to actually routes to the tank. You connect it into the inlet of the impeller, into the pump, into the impeller, so it gets the water, and you fire the pump up. Here's a connection here. Coupling, a reducer. This reducer goes from a 65 discharge to a 38. And that's where that can connect onto. Okay, so if you wanted to, let's say a ditch fire, and you just want to walk along, you can hook up a hose, and we'll show you the hoses on the other side. Hook up a hose, you fire this up, you got water coming in from the tank, you go in tank supply. There's a tank valve right here as well. You can see is this tank, the pump. You pull that, water's coming from the tank into this and into your pump. Okay? As you can see, there it is right there. Okay? So that's where you can go pump and roll, use that operation. Now, let's say you decided to go remote, and so you're going to take this pump and you're told to go to a pond to draft water and deploy lines. So you can do that too, and we'll show you some other connections there. Okay, now over here you have an electric start. It has a battery, so if you went remote, you can use your key. It has a battery on it. As you pick it up and move to it remotely, you can start it. So you just basically turn it on, switch on. Again, once again, our standard operating guideline, turn your fuel on, because we always shut our fuels off during movement, because we don't want the fuel going into our crankcase. So, and then the seats go. You have your throttle, you have your choke. Okay, just like the motor that's on 204 that you just went with. Okay, this one is also wired right now directly to the truck. So the truck is always, when the truck is running, it always also is charging the battery, but also you can start it through the battery as it's connected to the truck here. Now, what we always recommend too, before you take off, is start it here. Okay, make sure it starts. Just like your chainsaw, we always like to have you start your chainsaw first before you go up onto the roof to make sure that it's running, it's not flooded and what have you. Okay. Now, there has been a case where the battery has gone dead. So you pick this baby up, you go to the remote area, you go click, 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 it doesn't work. You do have the option to pull. Okay, so you can pull start this thing too. Okay. Now moving on to the side here, on your other accessories. Remember I told you about the pump and roll? Here is, that's why you have this red jacket here. there's this small little line, little attack line. It's probably about, I don't know, I'm guessing about maybe 25 feet. And this one here, you can connect on to the discharge. So the small line, the small line connects onto here. Okay? So you can pump and roll. And that's why it's designed as a small one, a small piece of hose, because you're not planning to go far, you're just pumping and rolling. So anytime you're pumping and rolling, try to stay on this driver's side if you can. I know that the case is not always possible, but if you can, try to stay on the driver's side, because that person can see you. Then you can go and you can monitor what you're doing. Okay? Communication is very important between the driver operator and the guy that's running the hose. Generally a 3-man operation, where one nozzleman, the operator, and the other person that's giving direction and watching the operation. Okay? Other accessories you have here, you have your sprinkler connections, we covered that before, your water thieves hoses, okay, several nozzles, okay, in terms of your quarter turns, your water thief connection back here, okay, same as on 204 that you went with, and your garden hose nozzles, okay, and your wires. Now, something really neat about this, if you're going remote, and you decide to go remote, multiple uses for this. And I want you to just touch base that these are your normal wires that you have on your engines. We just put these quarter turn couplings on. Okay, so if you wanted to go structural, you still can. Okay, or you go water through. So these do screw off. Okay, now a good rule of thumb is if you're planning to move lines off, just like we said with 204, this gives you 2 options right off the get-go. So if you went off your back end on your pump, and you weren't just using a booster reel and just pumping and rolling, you can connect that on there. And then you can have a line going this way and a line going this way. Okay, so that is also an option. Okay, one thing nice about this, it gives you that option. If you just go with a single one, you got one line going. But I mean, you just shut down and change it over if you like. But I mean, you can save time if you just went this way. Okay. The other thing, if you went directly like this, you could unscrew this and then go with your booster reel, and you still have an attachment for a forestry if you like. Okay. So the other thing is, with these couplings, talking about these couplings, if you were just going to go static with this truck, okay, we want to encourage you guys, especially in wildland, if you can just go with not using structural hose, but using your forestry hose. So that's why these are put in here. They can go right off the truck too. It doesn't have to go off that site over on the portable pump. You come over here and go right off your discharge. Okay, so if you were going static, you're going static with your truck, and you're not moving, you connect this gated Y on, and you got 2 forestry hose discharges. Okay, and you have 2 of these, so you could have definitely 4 lines. Okay, so back in the day we used to use structural hose, pull structural hose all the time, fighting the grass fires. You don't have to do that. You can still go structural if you need to, if you got a structure, but for wildland firefighting, that's why we accommodated goes a quarter turn for structural. To forestry hose. It's a lot lighter, a lot easier to handle, and so forth. Okay. The other thing I want to mention here is your primer oil reservoir. There's your primer oil reservoir, and that's for your primer when you're drafting. Okay. It does use fluid to prime, not like the city engines, which are self-enclosed, but this one does use primer oil to help draw out the air and bleed your lines. Okay. So that's the end of this video for orientation of the equipment. We'll be going to the second video, and the second video will be on pump operation of this truck in terms of wildland.